Hi, welcome to How to D&D. My name is Fred Weller, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5e and monster tactics. And this particular tactic is surround the characters. Now, even the dumbest monster or beast or NPC knows that surrounding and overwhelming a single target is far more effective than spreading their attacks around the party of adventurers. So try to go with surrounding a single target. So wherever possible, aim to focus on the weakest target in that party. These are bandits here, making their way along the road, and we have our adventuring party here. We have a fighter, a cleric, a rogue here, and a sorcerer. So this is our basic party composition. Now, they are more than 30 feet away. So once you open combat, if your monsters, your NPCs, are all melee focused, you're going to need to move very, very quickly across open ground, or you're going to have to use cover. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's 30 feet. It's going to take a dash to engage the fighter. So make sure you do that. So by all means, move them up and try to engage as many as you can around the fighter. That is certainly one of the options available to you. And we will just pile them in there and move them up as much as we possibly can, so you get a basic gist of how this might work. Now that's one way of dealing with your particular situation, is to just rush them up, and then next turn you'll get an opportunity to make a whole bunch of attacks against one target in the front line. But we don't really want the front line, because remember, the front line is the fighter or the paladin. They are the tank, they're hard to hit, they got lots of hit points. So this is one way of getting up and swarming your players' characters. Another option is to use cover. So if I pull these all back over here, back to this position, instead of dashing across, what I can do is I can move them up a reasonable distance, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and then move them into cover. Okay, that makes them harder to hit, and I can either use a hide action, as that's an option available to me to make it a little bit harder for me to be hit or be found. That's something you could do. Or I can use cover. Any kind of cover, even behind a rock, is going to provide some sort of protection, and then next turn I'm going to move around. Now when you do that, you can hide, you can dodge. All of those are options to make you a little bit more difficult to actually target till you can get into a better position, because there's plenty of cover here, so there's no reason why they can't move up, and they don't need to necessarily hide. They could simply just move up and dodge. Okay, well, a good portion of them. And then in the following turn, then you would rush up and surround the particular character you wanted to focus on. I'm going to go back to where we were before, where we had them all piled around. So I did say try to use the dodge, disengage, and move action to engage the weaker members of the party. And that's a really important thing to try to do, because you could wind up wasting a lot of your attacks on the front line. And this particular fighter could be very, very hard to take down, and your better option might be to target those who are weaker and more likely to go down because they have a lower armor class and fewer hit points. Now I would say the smartest way to deal with anything is to go straight for the wizard. If you can get around the front line and get to the wizard, that's your prime target, is taking out the wizard. And the reason for that is wizards, one, they have area effect spells, and they do truckloads of damage. At low level they may not do an awful lot, but at higher levels they will do a lot of damage, and they should really be a prime target for you when you're trying to surround any kind of player character. Now in terms of priority for surrounding and attacking the player's characters, it could be summed up as the wizard, the sorcerers, bards, and a cleric. Now if you eliminate any of those particular classes from a party and knock them down and put them out of commission, that will significantly affect their fighting ability. Now that I've surrounded the fighter here, I want to actually engage the wizard. Now the wizard's going to cause an awful lot of damage. Even the cleric is certainly a prime target. Now I have a couple of options. I could have this character simply move and take the attack of opportunity from the cleric and the fighter. That's one option. Or I might decide, actually that's too much. 2 attacks, chances are that monster will go down. I can use the dodge action and then move up and engage. Now I might not be able to actually make an attack, but I have now got myself into a position where I can later on. Over here I might do the same thing. I can just disengage and move myself around into a better position. Here I could take the dodge action, or I could just disengage, another option, and move myself around into a better position so that I can target that particular character. Now these particular characters are in the back line. They don't necessarily need to fall into the front line. They can go around the back. So take them around the back by all means. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So take them round the back and surround the particular character who's likely to do more damage to anything else. Now also remember too, you can move around a particular character as long as you don't leave the threatened area. So just because this particular character is here doesn't mean I can't go 5, 10, 15. Now what I've done by doing that is I was only able to target the fighter in the front row by leaving him there. Now I can go after the cleric. Remember, clerics are high priority targets. Those are targets you certainly want to surround. I can do the same thing again with this character here. I can move this one around, 5, 10, 15. Now I was only able to target the fighter. Now I can target the fighter or the cleric. So I can concentrate more attacks on the high priority targets. So one of the problems with moving your monsters or NPCs up really quickly from a long distance is sometimes it's big open area and dashing won't get you into combat, or melee combat that is, or there's no cover. And an option for that is to actually create your own cover. Now remember, they could create their own cover in terms of shield walls. Even standing behind another particular monster will provide you with limited cover. It's not going to be a huge amount, but it will improve your armor class so you can get the rest of them up. So just remember that you can use a shield wall of your own monsters to stop the rest of them taking missile fire until you can get them into melee combat. Okay, lastly I want to talk about how to deal with surrounding your player characters when there's a bottleneck. As always, there's usually going to be a tank in the front line, and you want to get rid of the tank, move them into a position where you can actually get at the weaker characters, or at least surround that tank, rather than only 3 being able to make attacks. Here's a typical situation, a doorway which is only 5 foot, and the party's in this room, and you've got your bandits in this particular tavern, and only 3 of them can really make attacks. 1 here, no cover, the other 2 on the sides, they're going to have to deal with cover, on top of a character who has probably a very high armor class. So how do I deal with a bottleneck like this? The easiest way to deal with a bottleneck is to use different actions rather than just going for a standard attack. Now you could try and shove them backward. Okay, you can shove them prone. It will make it easier for you to hit them, because you get advantage if you can make this particular character prone by pushing them over. That would be one of your options. That means you get to roll 2 dice and you take the highest result for the other 2 attacks. Even though he had a high armor class, he's now prone, you get advantage, so that's going to help quite a bit. Another option is to go with a grapple. Now I know this sounds weird. Sometimes grappling is a really good idea, and the reason being, if you can successfully grapple that particular front lead who's causing the bottleneck, you can drag them half your speed away from the doorway. That means if I'm successful with either one of these, I can drag them out half my speed. So that would be 5, 10, 15. That means a successful grapple will get the fighter in this position, and as long as you don't have the rest of your monsters or NPCs surrounding the doorway, you've got space to move the rest of them in and actually make it quite difficult for him to deal with that situation, because now he's got to deal with a whole bunch of NPCs attacking from all directions. So don't necessarily just decide to attack. Sometimes it's better to push them over so you get advantage with the attacks, but grappling and pulling them out of that location so that you can surround them and do multiple attacks is often a really good way of dealing with a situation where there's a bottleneck. Now that's pretty much everything I have on surrounding your player characters. If you found this video helpful or informative, please share, like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I do more videos pretty much every day, so if you're interested, you should be able to find something that will appeal to you. If you have any questions or comments about surrounding enemies, or should I say surrounding the player's characters in the situation, put them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer those. If you have some feedback, something I've missed, by all means put it in the comments as well. Until next time, keep rolling those 20s.